Hello, welcome to Talk Truth. My name is Corey Huntsberger. I've got my father, Alan Huntsberger, in the studio. And Dad, we're going to go straight into the show with our guest. We're excited to have him on. He's been a very busy man, traveling all over the world. Mr. Cory Morgan. He's the senior Alberta columnist and the host of the Cory Morgan Show for the Western Standard and Alberta Report, based in Calgary. Cory, welcome.
Great. Thank you for the invite. Always a pleasure.
Well, we're excited to have you on. You are writing all kinds of articles. You get a really good bird's eye view, and we love your opinion. I watch your show every once in a while, and I love your perspective. I know that Alan had a couple questions, and we're just going to go ahead and get right into it. Go ahead, Dad.
Yeah, Morgan, I wanted to ask you about the Independence Rally that was in Edmonton. I didn't get to go. I wished I could have, but you mentioned that, or you described the recent rally in Edmonton as a significant moment for the independence movement in Alberta. Can you describe, when you wrote that, what you were seeing at that rally when you say a significance moment?
Absolutely. I've been watching and participating, I guess, in the independence movement for a long, long time. And it really has ebbs and flows and can often be reactionary with, people are upset and worked up, but then they cool down and accept the status quo, and it just sort of fades away until the next affront to the West happens inevitably. This rally showed post-summer, post-cool down period that independent supporters are just as engaged and dedicated to getting this movement as they've ever been, if not stronger. And to see thousands of people come out, we've never had anything like that happen. There was going all the way back to the 80s, a large rally at the Jubilee Auditorium with Doug Christie and the Western Canada concept. This is the first time we've seen anything much like that. And this was thousands more people. They took the time to come out on a weekend and, not bad weather, but not the greatest, and put feet on the ground. So it demonstrates this is more than a social media movement. This is more than just a handful of vocal, upset, crabby people. This is real. It's not going away, and it's only gaining steam. And the rally really demonstrated that.
When we talk about numbers, there seem to be quite a variety of different guesses, from 6,000 people up to, according to the RCMP and some others, 20,000. Did you arrive at any conclusion?
When I hear these and so many rallies and other things, you always see that split. I tend to just go for the middle. It seems to be where the reality is. Let's say it was 7,000 or 8,000 people. That's still not insignificant at all. That's a whole lot of people packed onto the legislature grounds. It was numbers that couldn't be dismissed. And the other thing that was striking was, had this been a rally with 6,000, 7,000 people on the legislature grounds, for virtually anything else, it would have made headline news across the country. And legacy media just didn't touch this. The silence was striking in response to this.
So nobody covered it in legacy media?
It was at best, you'd see a footnote in the evening news, perhaps, a 30-second segment or something, just quickly saying a bunch of cranks got together at the legislature today and nothing came of it. It was an event worthy of a deeper dive and more coverage, but our mainstream media outlets didn't feel that was the case.
And that's why you exist, and that's why we exist.
Well, that's right. I've got a bias when it comes to that anyway. So when they can expose themselves, I'm perfectly fine with that. If you want if everybody out there, you want full coverage, go to the Western Standard and talk truth, because you're not going to get it from CTV.
Hey, we know this. The lamestream media, we know this is why they need to accept billions of dollars from the federal government, because they can't make it on their own, because people don't support them, because people got their own eyes. They know what's going on, and they know that it's crickets over there. Sean Buckley just went to Parliament Hill introducing the third largest petition in Canadian history, the health charter, and zero crickets, nothing, absolutely nothing, no coverage, not a sound. So we know that's the game they play. I wanted to ask you this. What do you feel like this is a boost to the independence movement? Do you feel like it propels it even further? What did this do? Did it just give the organizers and the guys that are like talking to Washington D.C., more of a mathematical calculation of kind of where the vibe is? Or what do you think did did this rally and the numbers that showed up just really kind of how did it move the meter is really what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, well, I don't know if it moved the meter in the population in general, but what it really did was fortified the people who were already committed to the movement. It reminded them, yes, this is still going on. The people who went in person, like, wow, I get to network with thousands of other people who are of like mind and moving towards the same goal. Speaking of legacy media and such, there's no better way to cut through it than get there yourself and interact with people directly and have that driven home that this is real. It's not fading. It's not hidden. So as I said, the average person perhaps didn't see a lot of it, but the engaged independent supporters who were out there, and they're in the thousands. I mean, you got to remember too, thousands of people would have loved to make it, but they couldn't. It's difficult. You got to, head across the province and head to these things. And it reminds them, yes, this is still worth it. This is still a thing, and it's still growing. So as much as others are dismissing it as just a blip, no, I do feel this was pretty significant and a step forward. It sets the tone as we go into fall and the rest of the year now with more activism and work towards independence is happening out there.
Obviously in these rallies, you have different speakers giving different, perspectives on the matter. Who do you think got the biggest response, or what was the biggest response in the rally in your estimation?
Yeah, well, I've got to be honest. Like I was just, literally landing, coming back from Israel when the rally was going on. So I've only watched the videos like yourselves. So, but I watched, of course, all the presentations afterwards because this is my turf. I got to see what's going on. To see one or another standing out, it's difficult to say. Dr. Modry, some of the others, they kind of give more of the stock speeches, but the whole crowd was enthusiastic. It was. I couldn't say a single individual stood out, but the enthusiasm in general was great. I mean, they embraced everything they heard there, and it just to help again reinforce and keep everybody upbeat.
I wanted to ask the Keep Alberta in Canada scenario. You always see every once in a while some older people put up a flag and a little table and a chair, and they want you to sign a petition about Keep Alberta, in Canada. Do you know anything about that and what's happening there?
Yeah, well, you know what? I've got to give a little bit of credit where it's due. Thomas Lukasik had that initiative with that Canada Forever, and he's sort of built a brand around it, and they've utilized that to set up their tables and petition, and they actually managed to round up hundreds of thousands of signatures. Well, that's the way democracy works. I mean, I would be interested to find out, how their funding came in and the organizational help they got, but whatever, they really actually achieved it. The people it represents, though, it's been interesting to watch as well from their events. And I mean, not to knock some of the folks who are a little more gray in the muzzle and so on, but it's that same liberal boomer crowd kind of that just wants the status quo to maintain, and they're afraid of change, I think. So they're clinging to a concept of a Canada that really isn't around anymore. It's changed and it's not serving us. But it's showing now that there's two sides as well. There is some polarity. There's the independence movements that's doing their thing, and there is this Forever Canadian movement, and it's moving towards, clearly a referendum is going to be held at some point. And these are the two teams pretty much organizing and practicing and getting ready for what's going to be the true big test when it comes to the vote for Albertans.
I feel that week, Cory, was extraordinary for Canada. Like I said before, you had Sean Buckley going to the Hill to present a 153,000 signature petition, third largest in Canada, for our health. We had the rally going on where, like what you said, 8,000, 10,000 people for independence of Alberta. We also had an election that happened in Alberta, all over Alberta as well. I mean, for people that say nothing's happening in Canada, things are happening. We're seeing some things happening. But if you're watching lamestream media, you're not seeing it. You got to find your other sources. I'm going to ask you about the election. Do you feel the election that happened in Alberta with the mayors and the city councilors and all that, did those numbers and the people that they selected, does that give you a little bit of a hint of kind of where Alberta's leaning, when it comes to independence, because I feel like there are some areas of the problems, for sure it did. Then there are other areas that's like, oh man, here we go, 15-minute city. You're going to own nothing and be happy, and we're not going to be able to eat meat or travel. So what are your thoughts when you see the election results? What happened in Alberta?
Yeah, well, the first part, unfortunately, was just disappointing with turnout. As usual, Albertans who are often very engaged, but we really just don't seem to get off our butts when it comes to the civic political elections and vote. In Alberta, in Calgary, it was under 40%. I also I saw a lot of people proposing to make some bigger changes to the whole thing or shake things up. We saw a party system coming in. It doesn't seem that the parties really have established themselves or made an impact yet. And as for Edmonton and Calgary, I see more status quo in a sense. People were ready to get rid of Jody Gondek in Calgary and some of the more radical councillors that were on there, but then they replaced them with a similar sort of mix. I guess time will tell if much is going to change. Jeremy Farkas, Calgary's now mayor-elect, he's a good person, actually, and he's it's been difficult to figure out where he's coming from. His ideology's sort of bounced around a bit. So I'm hoping he adds at least a sense of pragmatism when balancing things in Calgary City Hall. But likewise, we've got proponents for things like 15-minute cities in there. In Edmonton, it seems to be more of the same happening there. As for how much impact it have with independence movement, I don't know. I don't see so much direct impact because it is our local government, and I don't think we as electors did a very good job in holding them to account this time around, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I'm going to ask you the same question that we've been asking for a long, long time since the beginning of this conversation. Have you noticed someone in the movement for independence rise up that could possibly be the leader? Like we've been waiting for the person to lead, like we have great guys, a lot of strong guys in leadership, speaking out, making this thing happen, pushing things forward. But, it's like we're looking for the one guy. Do you feel like anyone has risen from the ashes and has presented themselves yet? Are we still searching? Should we do a casting call, like American Idol, and try and find the person? Where do you think we're at with the leadership?
It hasn't changed a bit since the last time we talked about it, to be honest. Dennis and Mitch are doing a great job, and they're out there pounding the pavement. I've been speaking at meetings around the province, but none of us are of course, the central figure or face of this. I think the time will come when it comes to the campaign where there's going to have to be somebody at the head of this speaking for it. And I don't see anybody rising up. I hope they do organically or they start to look and somebody comes up. But at the same time, it's been interesting seeing how this decentralized sort of movement has built. The night before last, I spoke to a group in Chestermere, which is just a small community east of Calgary, and the place was packed. And it was just a local chapter meeting. And I spoke at another one a few weeks ago in Longview. This is a town of only about 150 people, and 40 people showed up for the meeting. All of these little decentralized groups, and there's hundreds of them around the province right now, are sort of all functioning independently, but with a common goal, which I like that organic basis, and it also shields it from, the problem with a solitary leader is that one person can also blow it for the whole movement potentially. They can move it forward, but they can also tear it down. When you've got this built up like this with such a wide base, it's hard to keep everything, I guess, moving in the same direction, but it's very difficult to undermine that movement and chip away at it too. So as you were asking, yeah, I don't have a good answer. I don't see a solitary individual standing out yet. I think perhaps somebody will surface, because I do think when the campaign comes, they're going to need somebody, whether it's one of the existing ones or somebody else rising up. But no figures jumping out at me yet.
The Alberta Teachers Association just got forced back to work. And of course, the whole interesting thing for me as I started Christian schools back in 1979 is one of their main targets was independent schools, and to take that away from the freedom that Alberta has been having for the last 30, 40 years, well, over 40 years now, at least. So where do you think that's all at? Was there anybody standing up and fighting back for the private independent schools and that parents are responsible for the education of their children?
I think Premier Smith has been. She hasn't caved. The easiest answer for premiers in these situations is usually just to give the unions whatever they want and move on. And she's definitely dug her heels in and said, no, this is it. We offered you something reasonable. You turned it down. We're done. We have to move forward. I mean, the students are missing out on their education. And the teachers union really did expose itself in rejecting that offer, because one of the things they were constantly going on about when they rejected it was funding going to separate and private schools. Well, that's not the place of a union to tell us where we can put or not put our money. Their target is school choice. They want to take it away. They want to have a monopoly with a public socialized system. And we have to fight tooth and nail to make sure they don't get away with this. They've exposed themselves for where they are. I think it's going to build more momentum for extending more school choice through more charter schools, more separate schools, and even talking, I mean, this is what I've been writing about, what's going to be coming out soon, even examining right to work legislation. So, you know, some of those very dedicated teachers, educators don't have to take part in a union in order to be able to teach children, which is what they really want to do.
Well, you answered my question, because I was going to say, I thought they want, smaller classrooms. So independent schools, kind of help take the load off of the system. They should be happy about it. Yeah. Obviously, they're not, because of what you said, right?
Well, and likewise, they keep talking about classroom complexity. They're saying, it's so hard on us right now because we have students with different needs and special needs, and English is a second language. But again, at the same time, well, the better way to cope with that is to have more of a variety of educational options. So schools can be focused on ESL students, perhaps in a charter environment, or kids with different directions, needs, inclinations can have those options that their parents can put them in outside of the public system. So they're fighting against the very things that would reduce class sizes and class complexity. Again, it shows that their true root of the thing is more based on organized labor and really doesn't have the interest of the students in mind.
They also use the argument of public funds versus taxpayer funds. And of course, when you talk about public funds, we can't have public funds sponsoring private schools. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. This is taxpayer funds, not public funds.
Well, that's it. And I mean, that's why I am a proponent of school choice and voucher systems. I like to see that have the funds truly follow the student, let the parent choose, and have it be equal. There's that amount per student that goes in. And so it is. I mean, people immediately, of course, the argument is much like healthcare. They say, oh, you'll turn it into something like the United States. Well, fine. Let's not look at the United States. Let's have a look at Sweden. Sweden has a voucher system where people can choose private schools and have the funds follow their kids to those. That's a very socialist country, but they allow that choice, and they're really embracing it. And they're testing higher than average with their students among OECD countries, because having a diversified education system serves students much better than jamming them all into one centralized system like our Canadian teachers are trying to do right now. So this labor action hopefully is opening some of those discussions so we can reevaluate just how we're providing it. And I think in the long run, this could be backfiring on those unions.
Got a couple minutes left, and I like to ask this to people that are watching, and I know you're watching. Danielle Smith, do you have a report card? My kids get a report card a couple times a year, just so I get an update of where they're at. Where do you think, if she was to get a report card on how she's been doing, what she's been saying, her actions matching with her words, what do you think her grade is right now? Where's she at in your eyes?
I put her at a A-, perhaps, I guess.
Wow, that's pretty good.
I think she's doing a very good job. But there's more she could do. I'm concerned about her getting spending under control. There's still, we've got a deficit going on in Alberta. This is supposed to be a conservative government. I'm not seeing any areas of reduction in expenditures. She's put her foot down when it came to, basically the teachers are asking for $2 more billion over the $2.6 billion that the government already offered. And that's where they said, no, we're drawing the line. So that's a good sign of fiscal responsibility. But in general, she's answered questions. She's stood her ground. She seems to be maintaining caucus pretty solidly. We're not seeing too much rebellion as conservatives seem to love to do, as we certainly see in British Columbia, for example. So in general, I think she's doing well, but she's coming into the later part of her mandate now and being elected. And that's when push comes to shove. She's going to have to get some more things done to be able to point at and say what she's accomplished with her 4 years in when she comes back to the electors. So I would hope and expect to see a pivot towards more solid actions again and streamlining government.
You talked about BC. Do you have any comment about the ostrich situation?
Not a lot. It's been well covered by others, and I've certainly watched it, but I haven't made that my beat. It's just such a bizarre circumstance. It really shows the obsessiveness, though, of bureaucracy and federal government agencies. Boy, they don't want to crack down on some of the craziest things that happen out there, yet they focus in on something like this where suddenly it's priority one to get in and kill those birds under all circumstances. It's just an unusual case. I don't know what to say on it.
I agree with you. It's hard to jump in. We've had we've reached out to Katie multiple times, tried to get her on. She's had to cancel on us because the police were at her door. It's like, I want to get a report. I don't even know what to report on. It changes every 30 seconds of what's happening. It's the most bizarre thing I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's singular. So I'm not sure. I'm just kind of like you guys watching and seeing what comes out of this and see what has to be interpreted later, I guess.
Yeah.
In a couple of days, the United States might even have a contract for trade with China. And of course, we know that President Trump's been in, Japan and South Korea and everywhere around the world. He's making agreements except Canada. And Canada seems to irritate him, like the ad that the Premier of Ontario ran and mischaracterized Ronald Reagan. Is this, what do you think of this? I mean, comments on it.
Yeah, I mean, some realities have to be expected. Look, Trump is a vain man and he's a thin-skinned man. That's just the reality of who he is. Wherever you land on this, I mean, diplomacy calls for you to be careful when you're talking with other leaders. There's no sense poking the stick at and provoking him, whether you think he's being fair or not. And this tactic between, and as it was shown, Carney was cognizant of that ad being run by Ford. What did they think they were going to accomplish? This is our biggest trading partner, our lifetime ally next door. It's not going away. Geographically, we can't change the close relationship we're going to have. So I don't understand why they're being provocative with him. I understand that you still have to try and stand up for Canada and get the best you can for what's happening over here. But to date, Carney's doing a terrible, terrible job of it. Yeah, he's sitting on the sidelines overseas in Asia while Trump is cutting massive deals with other countries, and we're still sitting here spinning our wheels. It makes me fear for our economy in the future, that's for sure.
We got 60 seconds left, and I had to ask you, you brought it up, Israel. You just got back recently from Israel. I know you got to see a lot of kind of the tension that's down there. Well, you got to feel it. The tension, see a little bit of the devastation. What are your thoughts?
Well, everybody there is jubilant that their living hostages came home. I don't think enough people quite understand how tight that community is and how badly it wounded and hurt people over there, knowing that their people were being held. So that's a phase that's behind them now. It also drove home just the complexity of that region and the cultures and the religions in general. And unfortunately, I came back finding it more complicated to see where there's going to be a lasting peace or a long-term solution to what's happening over there. But knowing and seeing that misery, the devastation, the murder, the awful things that have happened, somehow we got to find a way. I wish I knew what it was.
Yeah. Cory Morgan, host of the Cory Morgan Show and a columnist for the Western Standard. Thank you so much for being on the show. We appreciate you.
Great. Thank you. Always a pleasure.
Well, it's always great having Cory on. Fascinating conversation. You know what I like is I like people watching. The bad part is you got to go through all the cesspool of lamestream media, social accounts, newspaper articles, and read basically you're rummaging through the trash, you're dumpster diving. But when you do that, you do get an overview, an insight that a lot of people don't. and he brings some really good perspective. It was exciting. Hey, Dad, let's talk about the book that we're giving away. It's called Living in Truth. It's book 1 of a series. It's a devotional study on 1 Peter chapter 1, verses 1 and 2. It's absolutely free. You go to our website, gotalktruth.com, click on resources, fill out the form. We'll send it to you in the mail, no cost to you. And it is a great, what it says, a devotional study. Right, Dad? Is that how you explain it?
Yeah, I would say even more so, it's an in-depth study. I mean, I don't, for years, I've read the Bible over and over and over again. And then all of a sudden, about maybe 20 years ago, I decided to look at the Bible there's not a phrase or even a word that's in the scripture that was there by accident or just to fill space. It was designed and inspired, by God himself to let us know what's going on. And so that's what living in truth is. It starts looking at phrases and words in such a way that help us to understand who we are and what it means to live in truth.
We got to do our foundational verse before we go. The earth and everything in it, the world and its inhabitants belong to the Lord, for he laid its foundation on the seas and established it on the rivers. Psalm 24, 1 and 2. Not a lot of things in life are guaranteed except for this verse. Nothing changes, never will change, never has changed, forever and ever and ever, that the earth is the Lord's and everything in it because he created it. Right, Dad?
Amen. And there are people that want us to change that verse. But what you have to understand is, there's hundreds, thousands of voices across Canada that want us to do this or that. And we can't do everything like that. We have to follow one voice, and that's the Lord Jesus Christ. And that's who we believe we're trying to do to the best of our ability.
I just heard from someone who said to me yesterday, you know what, I'd watch your show and you'd always open up the same verse. And I'll be honest with you. At first I was like, what is with this verse? Why the same verse? Now he says, I get it. Every day now it encourages me and lifts my soul to be ready for the day. So I'm like, see, it just takes time. It just takes time, everybody. You want to help support our mission, keep this conversation and truth on the air. We're viewer supported. We don't take government funds or lobbyist groups or special interest groups. It's only because of the generosity of those who watch this show. You can go to our website to support us, gotalktruth.com, click on donate. Many different ways to give digitally that way. If you'd like to do it through the mail, you can. You can send it to 246 Stewart Green Southwest, Suite 3260, Calgary, Alberta, T3H 3C8. All right, Dad, we're out of time. We'll see you guys later.
Love you.